What would you do if your home had a shadow person constantly lurking around? Have you ever had a terrifying experience that left you sleeping with the light on for years to come? Is it possible for a lost loved one to communicate through everyday technology? Today, we test the believability of the haunted century homes.
Welcome to Believing the Bizarre,
where we dive into the unknown and the unusual
and tell you whether or not we find it believable.
That is right. It is Tuesday. You woke up, you looked at your phone, and you saw a new episode.
A new episode of Believing the Bizarre.
And this is it. Welcome.
Yes. I don't know what this is about yet. I have no idea.
Well, you know it's hauntings.
Something about ghosts.
Century homes, which are homes that
I've been craving a good ghost story, so I'm excited.
We haven't really touched the dancing demon one.
Yeah.
It was kind of like the last.
Mm-hmm.
I was about to say there's not the many popular hauntings, which isn't true. But I will say probably more of our hauntings do come from listener submissions.
At this point, I think that's true.
Which is fine.
There are many avenues and places we can dig and find some good haunting stories.
It's good on the off listener submissions to do the more like the alien, the conspiracy, because we don't get a lot of those submissions.
Yeah,
so.
Well, we just did a pretty interesting one, the astrology episode.
Yeah.
Which is kind of, someone said it in our comments, it was like more spiritual episodes, which I'm like, all right, I got you.
Yeah.
It's a good idea.
So today we have two listener submissions. One is from Hannah, and one is actually from my wife, Claire.
Claire?
So that one's believable. Or else I'm sleeping on the couch.
I can say my real opinion. I don't know if I believe it, Claire.
Okay.
I'm excited to hear the story. I don't know if I know this one.
So I'm excited. They're hauntings. I love good hauntings, and let's get into it.
You say we like good hauntings? What did you say?
I like good hauntings.
Okay.
You don't like you. I like bad
I had to wrap my
hauntings.
head around that.
Bad hauntings are poltergeists.
Those are pretty interesting too.
Yeah. So this story comes to us from Hannah, and it takes place in Pennsylvania. So Hannah grew up in an old miner's home that she describes as being well over 100 years old, which is kind of the theme. The theme today is hauntings and century homes, which I'll be very honest, and I'll be transparent and behind the scenes here. I don't love the name of this episode, but there's like it encapsulates both because these both take place in really old houses.
Is that the idea?
Yeah, but it's like there's a lot of old houses. My house is basically a century home.
Century home, I thought you meant like I thought that was like an apartment complex.
No, old.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it's like over a century old.
Yeah.
The homes. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So Hannah and her sister commonly experienced weird and unusual things in their home growing up. From what I've captured, I believe she has an older sister and a younger sister.
Okay.
I didn't get the ages. I know there's one older.
Yeah.
But there's multiple sisters, multiple animals.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Lots of sisters.
So when they were young, they experienced things like cabinets opening on their own, footsteps climbing upstairs with no one around, hushed, disembodied whispers, and shadow people. Which is something I hope I never experience.
Really. I don't want to say never.
I feel like we both have kind of talked about seeing little bits.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's not a good feeling though.
The one I saw when I was a kid really freaked me out.
Which one was that?
The ghost in the theater.
Okay.
Yeah.
But like when we get into this story with Hannah, it's just like it's like an everyday occurrence. And these are the stories that blow my mind. It's not like one time I was in this place and I saw something and it freaked me out. Like us, most of the time. But this is like, oh, the shadow figure.
Yeah, like you got like a pet name for that one. It's not going to be good.
No.
Yeah, like this one we call Shadow.
Yep. So here's a quote from Hannah. So to begin, recently when my parents were renovating, they noticed that the side where the most activity happens is all charred wood as if there was a fire. My parents were not informed of any previous fires in this house, so that was a bit of a surprise to us. We also learned that the lady who sold us the house was a little odd. She would bury a bunch of things in the yard that we later found. We found an old baby doll, a glass tank, and old medicine bottles. We kept most of the items. My mom even put some on shelves as decorations.
What?
We found old newspapers under our stairs and clothes and random writing underneath the old wallpaper.
My God.
You can't, unquote, you can't control what was there before you, and you can't control the act of finding it.
You can't control this sounding like a haunted house.
You'll never catch me finding something and being like, that would look so good next to our family portrait in the dining room.
Was that old glass? Oh. But really though, writing underneath things, that is just like one of the biggest like red flags. Like we should have a giant red flag to wave. That's crazy.
It just said boo. Listen,
whatever it says.
I'm about to pay it forward. I'm about to take that shit to Goodwill and haunt someone else.
Oh man.
You think you got a bargain deal on this glass? You just got a new shadow person.
Yeah, exactly.
Give and a take.
Here's this old baby doll.
What would you really do? Now we've talked about stories before, like that the Sault Ste. Marie, you know, like where you find different things. Like let's say, I mean, in the next 5 years, you're probably going to find a new house.
Yeah, sure.
Like just stumble upon a new house. Oh, I found it.
Yeah.
You know, so let's say you buy a new house. I know there's other circumstances you've talked about. Yeah. But let's say you buy a new house and 3 or 4 months in, you know, you open something, you look under something, and it's just, let's see, an old baby doll and medicine bottles.
I feel like we set the house on fire. Honestly, I don't know. It's too scary to fathom right now. I don't know. What would you do?
I don't know. You know, when we lived with Ethan, there was a
I didn't live with Ethan. You did.
Yes, me, Claire, and Ethan lived together in an apartment, and there was like one of those like
pull down
things, but we never looked in it. Like,
you never went in there?
No, we were always like too afraid.
I would make Ethan do it. Like Ethan,
I'm surprised he didn't.
I am too.
But I don't know. I probably would just take it and I would get rid of it. I wouldn't keep it as a decoration. Let me just put it that way.
No, hard pass.
So anyway, back to Hannah. One of Hannah's first experiences is when her and her sisters would go to the bathroom upstairs or walk into their shared bedroom. Their bathroom was at the end of the hall, and to the right of it was Hannah's oldest sister's room. And that was the room that they all agreed had the most activity, which is now currently Hannah's room.
Oh, God.
At the time, Hannah's sister's bed was pushed up against the wall, so when you'd walk in or kind of by it, you could see from the doorway. So Hannah says when she would walk to use the restroom, she could sometimes see in the corner of her eye the apparition of a man sitting on the bed. And when she would investigate, you could even find the imprint on the bed of where someone had been sitting there, even when her older sister wasn't around. And these sightings would only last for like a very quick moment. It was like very much the corner of your eye. I think I see someone. You look, you capture it. Your retina's like, I got you. And then it just disappears. Done. Gone.
But there was physical evidence. Like there was something sitting on the bed.
Yeah. Now, she does have 2 dogs and a cat that I've discerned from the story. But I would assume that she would say, and then the cat got up and left.
Yeah,
and,
or
the idea is that whatever was there, which is crazy enough to have the energy, like thinking of a ghost here, like the energy to appear for a second and then to leave a mark. Like that means they were they were really
there. Yeah.
But it's also like, is this thing, does it know they can see me? And then is it just coincidental that when they look, they're gone?
Yeah.
Or is it she's looking at me, I'm going to freak her out and disappear? Or like I've been spotted, I'm going to disappear? Like
it's hard to know. If it depends. If it's always there at a certain time, then it might just be a
loop?
Yeah, like a loop.
But I don't think it's every time. I think it's just when they walk by, sometimes they see it. But it's the idea of like your vision is the camera, right? You are what you see through your eyes. Does it know when you turn and look and you see it and it's like, oh crap, I'm going to hide?
Yeah.
Or is it like, I'm going to be here until she notices me and then I'm going to disappear? Or is it just,
I think it depends how much energy it's getting from that. If it is aware, if it's intelligent, I don't know.
I think I'm trying to break down a little bit is the intention.
Yeah.
Is it just happening randomly? It's there. She notices it and it's gone. Or is it this thing waiting? Oh, I'm noticed. Now I'm gone.
I mean,
I've made my presence known.
That could be a way for it to generate some kind of energy.
Yeah. Either way, creepy. So when Hannah's older sister was younger, she told her mother stories about how this man would sit at the end of her bed, or sometimes she would wake up to something walking around her room. And her mom asked her to draw what she was seeing. So she drew the figure of this shadow man, the stick figure-ish shadow man with a hat on. And here's another quote from Hannah. So a couple months ago, my younger sister Sarah was in the bathroom, and all of a sudden, she sees a shadow under the door. She thought it was me trying to scare her, but when she called out my name, no one answered. Then all of a sudden, the lock on the door twisted, and Sarah freaked out and opened the door to nothing being there. She ran downstairs to find me and my other sister on the couch and told us what happened. No one else but us were home. My parents worked a lot, so it was usually just us three home. Now fast forward to when I was probably around 15 or so, I was having a sleepover with my friend Summer. I was in my old bedroom where Sarah and I usually shared a room, but she wasn't home at this time, but my friend used her bed. Now to lay out the room, my bed is right next to the door, and Sarah was on the far side because you got to get the layout.
Mm-hmm.
Gotta get the layout. So it was late at night, probably around 2 or 3 a.m., and I was FaceTiming my ex when my friend was asleep. Suddenly, my door slowly opened. My back was facing the door, and I honestly wasn't thinking anything other than it was my dog, Grim, coming in to sleep as he normally did. I reached my hand out, not looking or calling to him, but when he didn't come, I turned around to check on him, and to my surprise, I saw a tall black figure in a hat walking over to my friend and leaning over her. Almost instantly, my friend woke up out of a dead sleep and goes, "Hannah, is that you?" I jumped out of my bed and turned on the lights, and nothing was there. We just stared at each other in disbelief. I plugged in my TARDIS nightlight and tried to fall back asleep, but the image of the man was stuck in my head. Unquote.
Oh, man. I wonder why I went to a friend, because I wonder if it was like, this is different energy.
It's a different person.
Yeah.
Like it's still a girl sleeping in this bed, but just maybe like observing.
Right,
like
yeah.
something's different.
Oh.
That reminds me from our University of Ohio episode.
Oh.
Where the roommate, remember?
Yeah.
Somebody else went in the bed and they thought it was the roommate, but it ended up not being the roommate or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then we went into the discussion of whether we would tell each other.
Yeah. Man, that's really creepy. The thing about the lock in the bathroom reminded me of something that happened to me or our friend Alex in college.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking about? Alex was in the bathroom and he heard pounding down the hallway. He thought it was me. And then he saw the handle jiggle in the bathroom. And he was like, "Charlie, stop messing around."
Oh.
And then the light slipped off.
No.
Yeah. And the whole time he thought it was me. The door never opened though.
Oh my God.
And he opened the door, freaked out. And I was in the living room. I hadn't gone down the hall at all.
Is this Galucci or Exchange?
This was in our apartment.
Oh, damn. Oh. Nice. Never heard this before.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
That's how that one ended.
Yeah. I always wondered if the apartment was haunted or just you were haunted. I think it was you.
Well, that happened to Alex. It wasn't me.
Yeah, but you were around.
Alex had a creepy room.
Yeah, but you lived with him and all. Every time you had a haunted experience, I think you were there.
That is true. No. I wasn't there when the shadow thing, you talked to the shadow person.
It was our apartment. So anyways, the next morning, Hannah and her friend talked about what happened, and she told Hannah that she was asleep until she got this very intense, sudden feeling like she was being watched. And she was. And she woke up and she saw this thing, and that would be the last time I would spend the night at that friend's house.
Oh, yeah. She was like, "Hannah, are you wearing a cowboy hat?" She didn't say cowboy hat. She just said a hat.
You said cowboy hat.
In my head, it's a cowboy hat.
See, I was thinking like a big fedora. Wide brim.
I'm thinking cowboy.
I don't think it's a cowboy hat.
Agree to disagree.
It's not often now that I sleep at somebody else's house.
Yeah.
But it is when you were younger and, you know, your imagination. Getting to know the new sounds of a house you're not used to. Even if you're like sleeping with a bunch of people on the floor, it's just that uneasy feeling. Imagine having a shadow figure looking over you.
No. Mm-mm.
So another significant experience that happened to Hannah, she was 16 and she was playing The Sims downstairs on her computer around 2 p.m. So this is daytime.
Yeah.
It's not
afternoon.
spooky. It's not the dead of night. Like I think a lot of people play The Sims. I always play The Sims late. And I hope this is The Sims 3 because that's the best one on the computer. So while she was playing, she kept hearing her mom's dresser open and some footsteps go along with it. And this really freaked her out because she was home alone.
Oh my God.
It was just her and her 2 dogs and her cat were both downstairs, all downstairs.
Yeah.
So it's just her, the animals, all downstairs, no one else home, and she's hearing dresser open, get moved, and just footsteps walking around. That would just be so unsettling.
Yeah.
So unsettling. And it's like, I love The Sims, and I've lost myself in The Sims, but The Sims is also like a great multitasking game, in my opinion. And it's like, it's probably very easy to get distracted by other things happening. So I feel like it's just like you're trying to play this game with like normalcy, and you're hearing ghost footsteps upstairs. So very unsettling. She started kind of freaking out a little bit, which I think is very understandable. She tried to ignore it. She tried to just, she's been seeing shadow figures, so it's just like, whatever, it's happening. But it eventually got to her, and it got to the point where she was like, okay, I'm just going to kind of get out of here for a little bit. And she stood up, and as she did that, she noticed her 2 dogs started looking up at the staircase and just barking intensely. And she says these are dogs that are normally pretty chill. And if they do bark, it's normally outside with other dogs, other things. It's not inside the house. And also, what would be the stimulus that would cause them to start barking anyway? And a few moments later, she started hearing something run down the staircase.
Oh, no. Oh, my God.
Her dogs, instead of barking, ran behind Hannah, scared. And started whimpering. They were scared, more scared than she said she's ever seen these dogs. So with these dogs, she got out of the room as fast as she could and out of there before whatever it was took the final step to her level. She said she didn't have a cell phone at the time, so she grabbed their landline phone and called her mom crying, saying that she thought someone broke into the house. And her mom told her, call the cops or get the neighbor. Like one of those things, let's go. So Hannah didn't trust the cops, ran over to the neighbor's house, and kindly the neighbor came over and looked through the house and came to the conclusion that no one was there and no one had been there. This is a very interesting choice by the neighbor.
Yeah.
And it makes me believe that the neighbor never believed her. If I was a neighbor of someone, of a teenage girl, and she came over and said, I just heard someone running down my stairs. My dogs are freaking out. I was home alone.
Yeah.
I thought I was home alone. My instinct would be the same as the mom's. They're just like, okay, let's call the cops. It wouldn't be like, well, it's almost like, hey, Dad, there was a monster in my closet.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, let me look at, let me show you that I'm not finding anything. You're really trusting that no one broke into this house.
Yeah.
Or the neighbor's packing.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is where I grab a new pump action shotgun.
This is Pennsylvania, so I don't, it's I don't know what part, but I just thought it was an interesting reaction, and maybe there's gonna be more story between the neighbor, and also I'm not comfortable enough. Like I would have, yeah. I didn't grow up somewhere where I would have ran to my neighbors. Like I know my neighbors now, but it'd be really silly if I went. Yeah. Mostly we're exchanging Amazon things that sent to the wrong house.
Yeah.
But I just thought it was an interesting...
Can you come check my house, bro?
Bear comes over. You know the dog.
The bear's a good boy.
Yeah, Bear's awesome.
Yeah, I don't know if you noticed, the cat did not give a shit about this thing. It just sat there and looked. And
the cat was like,
come on.
So despite the neighbor saying that the house was clear, Hannah was still shook, freaked out, scared, and decided to just sit outside with her dogs until her mom came home. And at this point, without any evidence of an intruder, Hannah's mom started really believing everything that their children had been saying. And again, now she asked her sister to do it. Now she was asking Hannah to do it. She said, can you draw what you've been seeing? And Hannah drew the exact same thing that her older sister had seen, a shadowy man with a hat.
Had she seen that before?
The picture?
Yeah. Did she see her older sister? No, she didn't. Oh.
It's an interesting, her mom just has that's a go-to. It's like,
yeah.
I wonder if her mom hangs them up now, on the fridge. Like, remember when you guys were both haunted by the same? Ooh. They still live there, so.
Probably not.
So here's a quote from Hannah. When I was 17 or 18, my friends and I all got the bright idea to play the Ouija board in my house because all of us knew my house was haunted.
Bad move.
Although nothing happened, we never took it seriously and would do everything you shouldn't do with it, which might explain why things are happening now. So recently, within the past few months, we've been hearing whispers in my room. Now, the weird thing about it is that I've been living with my boyfriend, and no one's been in my room since. My sister says it sounds like my voice, and they can hear what sounds like someone moving around things in there. My mom tried sleeping in there one day when all of a sudden, she heard what sounded like me saying, "Shut your door." But I hadn't been home in a month. So recently, about a week ago, I had come home to help with our new puppy. When I woke up to take him out, I heard someone behind me, which sounded just like me, say, hello? I was freaked out, but I did my best to ignore it. But nonetheless, all my friends who've seen this figure all describe him the same way. He's a tall man in a hat, to which we call the Shadow Man.
So this is like an audio doppelganger.
But that's interesting because I don't think anyone would mistake the visual.
Right.
It's not a visual doppelganger. It's
just
clearly
audio.
like a man in a hat.
Mm-hmm.
But hearing, that would be so unsettling.
That sounds like maybe they opened some kind of portal and something else came in.
That's a good point. That's a very good point. And I guess she kind of hinted at that by saying that she thinks things have changed. So she's not living there anymore. So it sees an opportunity to replicate someone. I mean, it was like, it's not even drawing her energy anymore because she's not there.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right. The audio aspect of it,
This
the
does
voices
not seem to match. Yeah.
did not match anything that they experienced prior. Unless, I guess there's multiple changes. There's the change that Hannah played with a Ouija board, but there's also the change that Hannah left.
Yeah.
This is, although her sister left because she took her room. And she never heard her sister's voice. Mm-mm. So it's not like when one of them leaves, it imitates them.
Right.
This is a new development.
This is new since the Ouija board.
She's like, I'm living somewhere else. So let me go back to my old house and play the Ouija board.
Ugh.
But there, she's young. She's 17, 18.
That was silly. That was a silly thing. I don't know.
She, what she's going to do? She's going to go back home and be like, hey, Mom, why don't you draw me?
Yeah.
What you've been seeing.
What have you been hearing?
Hello. So that's Hannah's story.
Oh, God. That's how it ends.
A little open-ended. A little very spooky.
That's very creepy.
It's interesting because...
It's like we left the movie right at the climax.
Oh, yeah. Like a cliffhanger. But this story is set up for a sequel.
Yeah.
Like the life after she moves out and like what happens with the boyfriend. Is he in on it? Mm-hmm. No, I'm just putting that out there. I'm just joking. But like, it's so interesting because based on a lot of crazy things that we talk about on this podcast, and I've caught myself thinking this and saying this before, and I don't like it. Like, oh, this is just a traditional haunting. This is just a haunting. But when you put yourself there, this is so terrifying.
It's the worst. I would not want to live that.
Waking up and you just see this shadow figure, like I would almost feel guilty. Like I brought my friend here. Mm-hmm. Like that is not my responsibility, but like you're a host. And to see this happening, but then it couldn't have. I mean, they play with a Ouija board.
Well, guess what, buddy? You get to stay up all night with me now because you brought me here.
Yeah, it's spooky. It's spooky. So that's Hannah's story. We'll talk about it more in the discussion. But let's move on to our second story, my wife's story. All right, so this is my wife's encounters over the years, most of it being at her house that she grew up in.
Yeah, I don't know a lot of these stories.
I don't think you probably know any of these stories.
I think one. I think maybe one.
Maybe. And she obviously can be married to me without some type of fascination with the paranormal.
Obviously.
Or something to do with it. She's had more experiences than I have. But I also appreciate that she loves scary movies as much as I do.
Yeah.
Although she's the type of person that'll look up the ending.
Oh.
Like she'll you do it too.
I do too, yeah.
Get anxious watching it and then you look up the ending. She doesn't spoil it though, which I appreciate. All right, so let's get into it. So when Claire was young, she lived in a century home in Northeast Ohio.
Yeah.
I won't say where.
I know where.
You know where.
Yeah.
The main street that runs through the town was lined with a lot of old homes that had been there since the Civil War.
It's a cool little city.
It's cool.
Yeah. It's neat.
Neat is a good word, I think, to put it. So her family home was built shortly after the Civil War era in 1880. And back around that time period, her house was actually the town's doctor's office.
Oh, cool.
And after the medical practice was shut down, it was converted into a residential house.
It's like the Haunting Connecticut houses that used to be the mortuary.
Kind of.
Yeah.
I think the house in the Falls that I used to live at had something, because it had like a voice box up top.
Oh, yeah.
Like where somebody would announce, like, hey.
It could have been a business, maybe? I don't know.
Maybe. It was something like that.
Yeah.
I think. I could be completely wrong.
I don't know. My grandma's house has a talkie system.
You know how a house is haunted? If it's got one of those like chutes. You know what I mean? Where you like open it up like
oh, no.
You know what I'm talking about?
I have one of those.
Yeah, your house is haunted.
Oh,
right?
no.
That's where all the spooky stuff happens.
That's where we put our laundry.
Somebody is going to get scared and they're going to decide to hide there. And it's a bad idea.
Oh. Oh, you mean a dumbwaiter?
Yeah.
Oh, we don't have one of those.
Okay, then your house might not be haunted.
Okay, I don't think so.
Yeah, no, you're talking about the bathroom. There's like a chute.
Well, it's actually in our closet in one of the rooms, but
that's terrifying.
It's just a hole in the floor where you throw the laundry down.
Or people.
Whatever.
Just a rancor pit. Anyway, the house was positioned on a few acres of land that ran up against railroad tracks. And when Claire was young, there was a large hill that led to a pool, tennis court, farm with 2 pastures, and a sky fort. So it was pretty dope. Yeah, pretty awesome for kids. Lots of things to do. She spent a lot of summers with her family outside, soaking up the sun, playing outside until the sky turned dark, like Harold. I wasn't allowed in the front yard. So while Claire loved playing outside with her twin and her 2 other siblings and enjoying all the amenities that the outside had to offer, the feeling was completely different when inside the home. And here's a little background information. The house was large, and much of it during her childhood was 1800s original build. It wasn't overly remodeled or anything like that. Her family moved into the house in 1995, and they stayed there until 2006. They acquired the house via trade in a legal sense with the original owners. I don't know what that means.
I'll give you 1 sheep if you give me 1 child.
Apparently, the previous owner's son had committed suicide on the train tracks prior to the house being put up for sale.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Yeesh.
Claire's dad worked out of town during the week and was occasionally home on the weekends. Claire's mom was a stay-at-home mom until Claire turned 10. Her older sister at this point had gone off to college, and her older brother, in Claire's words, kind of wasn't around much. Mm-hmm. So it was mostly Claire and her twin Amy. They shared a room upstairs, which they called the horse room. It was the lighting in the room was very dark, and she said it kind of smelled of rich wood. And the walls were plastered with dark green wallpaper with horses, barns, and jockeys.
Hence the horse room.
The horse room.
Or the equestrian room, if you will.
The house gave an eerie, creaky hallway, lights flickering vibe. Very horror movie based.
Yeah, Blumhouse intro.
Yeah, that's actually a really good way of putting it. So here's a quote. I mean, these experiences will be a quote from Claire. Quote, "There were multiple occasions that I felt afraid, actually terrified. Many times I would rationalize with myself, or others would tell me I was crazy. I'm known for my overactive imagination and my dramatics still as a grown adult. I don't know the best way to tell my stories, and they don't really line up. They're a little short with very little buildup. Actually, in Charlie's favor, these stories aren't even chronological." So here's her first story. We got 5 of them. 5 little vignettes of experiences that Claire had in the house throughout the years.
Can I ask a question really quick?
Yeah.
Did she experience them with Amy, or are they separately? Or is she part of some of them?
She's a part of one of them, kind of, but a lot of them are more like her on her own.
Okay.
But this is mostly when, well, we'll get to them.
Okay.
So the first story, quote, "I was around 5 to 8 years old. I was sleeping in the horse room when I woke up in the middle of the night. We had an old wooden rocking chair in the front of the room. Oftentimes, my mom would still rock us when we weren't feeling well or we were feeling restless, etc. My dad would always let us both curl up, and he would read us a story in the rocking chair when he was home. Anyway, in the middle of the night, I woke up to the creaking of the chair. Through the slits of my eyelids, I saw the chair moving and a shadowy figure in the chair. I looked over to the left and saw my sister was awake and watching the chair move too. The figure was large, so I assumed that it was my dad. I called out to him a few times, but there was no response. By this point, I was literally screaming. A few minutes later, my dad rushed into the room from my parents' room across the hall to scoop us up. And at this point, I realized that no one was actually in the chair. I could be wrong, and I don't think I'm wrong. I believe that this rocking chair is currently in my bedroom.
No.
I'll have to confirm.
Are you for real?
I think this rocking chair, because they called it was in storage, I believe, and they was joking like the haunting rocking chair. And I think Amy took it for a little bit, but I think when Joey came around, which I don't think it's been used with Joey at all, I think it's just in the room. I haven't noticed it rocking at all, if that's,
Oh, I hate it. Oh, my God. Can you take a picture when you go home and send it to me?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
That should just be the graphic.
It really should be. It's pretty good. That's terrible.
It's definitely an old chair. It might not be. Maybe this is...
maybe it's a different rocking chair.
You know what? Yeah, it might have been one we picked up somewhere else.
Please.
It might have been one I think we picked up from... Actually, I think Claire's mom got us this one from somewhere else.
Okay.
I think it's still secondhand, so it could still be haunted AF.
I got this from the old house.
Amy might still have the haunted one. I'll have to check, but
okay.
either we have it or we don't. I guess those are the only 2 options.
That's most things in life.
Yeah. Okay. Story number 2. Quote, I was 5 or 7, and this story takes place in the horse room again.
Okay.
On a small 10-inch TV screen, I was watching Pee-wee's Playhouse VHS tapes. I had on these Sesame Street roller skate covers on my shoes, and I was wheeling around my room. I had my closet door open just a crack, and this is where the roller skates came from. I also like to keep this door open because the light in the closet was actually brighter and gave off more light than the overhead lights in my room. I was skating around when the closet door slammed shut. This is where my overactive imagination gets me in trouble. I remember going over to the door and trying to open it, and it wouldn't budge. The doorknob wouldn't even turn. I threw the skates off and ran downstairs to my mom as fast as I could. That was actually one of the last times that I played up in my room.
Ooh. That's pretty creepy.
Subtle, but also just like, I mean, it's one thing if it's shut, because then you could say wind or...
But the doorknob wouldn't even move.
Yeah, the fact, it just knowing that there could be something else on the other side holding the doorknob still is just like...
I wonder if it's the same guy, the same entity.
I don't know. And it's like, if I'm going to try and disprove it, it's tough because I normally when we do listener submissions, we have no insight.
Yeah,
it's
we have
just randoms.
We have a lot of insight on this one.
I know Amy. I've known Amy for 10 years.
Yeah.
She doesn't strike me as the type to hide in the closet and when Claire's playing, I'm going to shut the closet door and scare her. Because I feel like she'd be afraid of being in the closet. Because they both were kind of in on this.
Yeah. I mean, Amy saw the thing in the first one, too.
Yeah, so she understands. So in that case, I don't think... Because otherwise, you might be like, well, she's got siblings.
Yeah, what about an older sibling, though?
Well, neither of them were really around.
Oh, you're right.
But in other circumstances, my mind might go to, is somebody playing a prank?
Yeah.
Which is... I think still plausible, but just
even so she got to slip the skates out of that closet, and left it open.
That's a good point too. She would have probably seen someone in there when she was getting the skates.
Yeah,
my room, I had carpet. I could not skate. Right?
I didn't even. I was like, how's she skating on carpet?
Both of their rooms. I know. There's no way there's not carpet in a bedroom or an area. Right?
Yeah, right.
All right. Story number 3. Quote: I was somewhere between 7 and 10 years old, and having a slumber party in my parents' room. Our old house's central heating and cooling was near impossible. Side note, in the winter, we would keep the thermostat at 58 degrees, which I just recently learned. Which is hilarious now because if it's not 74 degrees in our home now, I die. It's true. I'm surprised Joey hasn't melted.
Yeah.
Anyway, in the sweltering, stinky heat that visits Ohio for 2 months, my parents would put in 2 window air conditioners, one in our downstairs family room and one in the window of their bedroom. One summer, my dad bought 3 vomit green army cots from a garage sale. He bought them for camping, but in this instance, it's called luxurious floor sleeping in a room under 80 degrees. I mentioned we were a family of 6 because she's got the parents, brother, sister, and her twin. This means that the 3 cots wouldn't cut it. So on a normal weekend night, my older sister and brother always got a cot, and then my twin and I would switch on and off sleeping on a cot or in our parents' bed. Of course, this lucky day, I got a cot. The room was laid out like this, because you gotta have them.
You gotta have a layout.
The bed was in the middle of the wall, and the 3 cots surrounded the bed sides. My cot was closest to the hallway door, laying in between my parents' bed and the closet with sliding doors. I was sleeping with my head closest to the door. This is important to note. My older sister's cot was identical to mine, but on the left side of the bed. My brother's cot laid horizontal at the foot of the bed, and he was laying with his feet closest to me. This is a lot of prep work for a small story. She said that, not me. However, that night, I woke up to my right ankle being grabbed hard. Hard enough that it actually left red marks on the inner and outer part of my ankle. I woke up with a loud scream and burst into tears. I felt the hand squeeze tightly and then release as soon as I screamed. When I told my dad what had happened, he yelled at my brother, who denied doing it. But the way we were laying in all of our cots, it would have made it really difficult for him to get close enough to grab my leg and to be able to lay back down and pretend to wake up with everyone else. Unquote.
I'm sorry, did she say she was sleeping by the bed?
So there's the parents' bed.
Yeah.
And if you imagine it pushed up against the wall, it has 3 sides.
Uh-huh.
And the cots were each on a side of the bed.
Okay.
But what she's saying is she was on one end by the door and her brother was laying long ways.
Feet first.
But his feet were by her.
Yeah.
So
By her feet.
Yeah, so it wasn't like
Okay.
his head was right there where he
Right.
could just reach up.
Grab.
So he would have had to grab her and then like fall
Lay back
backward or
down.
go lay back down and pretend.
Mhm.
Which I'm not saying somebody couldn't do.
Do you think this, whatever this was, came from under the bed?
Oh no! Actually, I'll be honest. I didn't think of it like that.
That's the only thing I could think of. Something's under the bed and grabs it.
Yo.
Yeah.
I don't like. And I think another aspect of it is the hard grab.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't like I could like.
It wasn't a playful grab.
I think that's probably another reason I'm thinking of pranking. It wasn't like a quick grab. Like, but also like it has to be hard enough to wake you up. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. That's intense
hard.
to leave marks.
A 10-year-old, 7-year-old. Ugh.
And then just to, to not even be in remotely in a position getting caught. Because as soon as someone screams.
It probably wasn't her sister hanging off the bed or anything because, it's a hard grab.
Yeah.
And her brother wasn't really in position to do it. So what else could it be? Not her other sister because she's on the other side doing whatever, sleeping.
No, and just like, I mean, once you start getting into physical aspects like this,
yeah,
it's just, ugh. Like, I don't like that's out of all these stories, that's one that I've heard before where it's just like, ugh. Story number 4. Quote, this experience took place somewhere between being 9 and 11 years old. When I got older, my great-grandmother came to live with us. I shouldn't speak ill of family and of people who have passed, but she was very unkind. She would actually talk about us on the phone and how she wished another family would have taken her in.
Jesus.
She also would kick our dogs with her feet while moving around the first floor in her wheelchair. Like I said, awful. She was pretty weak, and oftentimes she would ask us to help her move from one room to the next. When we weren't around or she decided she was mad at us that day, she would grab onto the furniture and the walls and push herself along. One day during summer break, I was sitting in the living room and I was watching TV. I heard scratching coming from the basement hallway, which was to the left of the hallway that connected the kitchen, bathroom, and the living room where I was at. I honestly didn't think anything of it at first. We had 3 cats and 3 dogs. But the scratching got louder and louder, and it began to sound like fingernails scratching on a chalkboard. And then I saw what looked like a hand slap over the side of the door frame. From a distance, it looked like bony little fingers. Instantly, I sprang into action and I was horrified, thinking that my great-grandmother had fallen down the steps and I didn't know, and now she was climbing back up the stairs and here I was ignoring the sound. I yelled out to ask if she was okay and let her know that I was coming to help. And that's when I heard her yell from a completely different room that she was fine and shut up. When I looked in the basement hallway, there was nothing there. Unquote.
That's terrible.
That is
I think
scratching and then you see the hand.
I think that's the one I actually might have heard before. Maybe in college. But the thing about that is the hand.
Mm-hmm.
Like she saw a hand.
She saw a hand.
No one was there. Do you think it's the same hand that grabbed her?
I mean, there is repetition here. This is like a year or two later, I would assume, based on what she's saying. But
do you think, I think that's kind of telling the same thing presented in front of her again.
Yeah, that's
terrible.
It's funny because like, I don't think about these things. And it'll be funny. We'll come from here talking about some of the possessions, some of the scariest stuff. And when I get home from the studio, it'll be a hallway light on. It'll be the upstairs light on. And she will be sleeping in the bedroom with the bedroom light on.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but then it's like, I think of this. I don't actually care,
No, I get it.
But it's just like things, like I firsthand see the effects that these stories still have on her.
Yeah.
Which is, easy to not think about in the day to day. But it's really true. Like it has had a profound effect on her. It's not like these are easily forgotten.
I understand why. That's terrifying.
Yeah. So her last vignette.
Oh, it's like it was coming for her.
I know. It's very spooky.
Sorry.
This one doesn't really have a time frame, but it's a reoccurring dream that her and her twin sister have since they moved out of the house. Both my twin and I have the same dream, and we actually didn't discuss it until adulthood. I was sharing my dream with someone when she yelled, "No way, that's my dream. How do you know it so well?" But it was the same dream that we had about our house. In this dream, someone would come over to babysit us while our parents were out, but then super sinister things would begin happening. But it was very outlandish at first. These people would come over dressed like a cowboy, or they would come over dressed like a clown, but we wouldn't let them in but more and more it would try to convince us that it was somebody they knew. Like it would almost wear other people's appearances. I tried to get more information from her on what exactly it was, but it was more the emphasis of this thing trying to get in and watch them. And I think the shift from like ridiculous outfits, like a clown, a cowboy, to like it, like pretending to be other people. They're really unsettling.
Yeah.
So these are a few stories that have stuck with Claire over the years and kind of creep in her mind. In the wee hours of the morning, Claire believes in ghosts and the paranormal, but she also tries to explain things away.
She is very logical.
She is. She tries to think, some things can be coincidental. She does admit she has an overactive imagination. And there's also a lot of negative energy. Like, I won't get into it on here, but like familial things, things in her family, negative energy, bad things happening, secrets, mistrust, bad things. So, there was a negative energy already in the house. And also, this is, I don't know if it's from her. She learned about this. I learned about it from the Chilling podcast with Lindsay. But she did say she doesn't think that mold and how mold can cause hallucinations. I don't know if you remember in the Chilling.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
And like paranormal activity or hallucinations making you feel like you're seeing things.
Yeah.
She doesn't think there's anything like that happening.
It's an old house, though.
It is a very old house.
She said it was musty.
Musty and dusty.
I don't know.
But here's like a bonus story. She didn't include it, but I was around for this one. So also, if anyone sees little dots flying around on baby monitors, if you let me know what that is, because it's totally not dust. I don't know what it is.
That's really, I remember that story.
It's still creepy.
Comes from your rocking chair.
And this, now I know.
Yeah.
Or all the stuff we've conjured up in the attic.
Yeah.
But here's less of a scary story, but still something strange.
It's not great stuff. It's what I'm thinking of. Is the baby monitor one?
It's not a baby monitor, but maybe that's what you're... Oh, no. What? I know what you're talking about. What was that story?
Where you like left the house, you went to go leave the house, and then like she saw you.
Oh, okay. I think I solved that.
Oh, good.
I think the screen freezes.
Yeah.
And then it plays. Because there's been times where I've gone in there.
Yeah.
And then I'll leave, and then a couple of minutes later I'll check in on them, and it'll like quickly, I'll see myself, but it'll be my exact actions. It's like a delay in the feed.
Okay.
So I think that's what that is.
Okay, good.
That is very scary, though, to see someone else. That's like insidious. But no, the final story, the bonus story is a little bit nicer. Kind of. So in November of 2019, Claire's grandmother passed away. And let me reiterate, the woman from the previous story was her great-grandmother. This is her grandmother. This is her mom's mom. Very, very close. Second mother. Like when they left this house, this haunted house, they actually went to the grandmother's house. And that's, this is their home. It was a second mom. Like my grandmother lived with me until she passed when I was 12. So I kind of, I understand that. But just, very, very, very close. So she passed away in November of 2019. So a few months later, right before COVID, actually, in like March of 2020, Claire, her twin Amy, and her mom were together at their house, and they're making pierogies because they're Polish. They have this, but that's what they like, real pierogies. Like, making them pierogies,
good kind.
And they had an Amazon Alexa playing. They were listening to music, and they were kind of reminiscing about grandmother Gigi, and her name was Ellie, but they called her Gigi for great grandma for the younger ones. But, they're making the pierogies, listening to music and talking. And suddenly, the music stops. And through the Alexa device, they hear a voice say, hello? And it wasn't the Alexa voice. And it also wasn't a statement. Like a, hello, like you've turned me on. Hello, I am now. What do you need? It was, and I made sure to get this. It was the up inflection. It was, hello? It was a question. And Claire believes that it sounded exactly like her grandmother's voice.
Yeah.
And they all stopped in their tracks and they looked over the device. And then a moment later, the music came back on.
Oh.
So, and I think they've gotten far enough away from it now where she said, like, her sister isn't sure. You're like, oh, maybe it wasn't. Which is, it happens to me. And we've talked about that before. Where it's like, the further you get from an experience, the more you're like, was it really? Or
question that kind of thing.
But that was a more recent thing, and thank goodness there's not more, because that would be my house.
Yeah.
But that's Claire's story. That's Hannah's story. Let's talk about it in the discussion. All right. So We got Hannah's story. We got Claire's story.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts? Let's go with Hannah's first.
Yeah.
What are you thinking?
Super intense. Like you said before, just like we've said it before, it's just a typical haunting. But if you put yourself in that situation,
terrifying,
horrifying. Imagine living with that fear of seeing that thing out of the corner of your eye every day.
It's also a unique situation for both of these stories because they're both younger.
Yeah.
Like teens. And it's like if you're an adult, you kind of have that like, it's still not feasible. I mean, in 2023, it's absolutely not feasible. But you got that just leave. Like you're in control of your life.
Yeah. They're not.
But when you're a teen, you're 10, you're 7, you're 12, you're 15. You can't just be like, bye, or like, I'm leaving. Like you can go to college eventually or summer camp or whatever, but you're uniquely stuck in your situation as a minor.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like so much less agency and you're just stuck. So you have to just deal with it. It's like you're dealing with something you can't control and you can't control where you're at.
And it's supposed to be your safe place too. Your home is supposed to be where you're safe, where you can be comforted by just the small things. But you have to have that fear in the back of your mind. And Hannah, she got a bunch of that.
But also not quite enough to not play with the Ouija board. I wonder if there's just like a hardening to it.
I wonder.
Desensitization.
I wonder also how much of that was peer pressure.
That's true.
Because it wasn't just her.
Yeah. It's like you want to be cool. Like,
they're like, let's go to your house. It's haunted, right?
I'm the one with the haunted house.
And she's like, yeah, I guess.
It was the popular girl. It was Brittany. She wanted to impress her. And she was like,
let's go open a portal to your house.
I don't know what to do this weekend. She's like, I know what to do.
Yeah. I do think that they might have
escalated it with the voice.
Yeah, I do think they might have. I don't think that voice was there originally. I think that's something that saw an opening.
That's true. Because I guess, this is a question I'll ask after. It doesn't seem like, there was any aspect of it where it was mimicking a voice
not until after, yeah.
Do you think this is or a rendition of the Hat Man, or do you just think this happens to just be a shadow figure with a hat?
I don't think
a cowboy hat.
It seems to me that is not a Hat Man type guy. It just happens to be a guy with a hat because they didn't mention a lot of malice intention coming from him.
Yeah, like and creepy in itself, but not like this. Oh, the running down the stairs thing is creepy, but it doesn't. It's not inherently creepy. It's creepy given the context.
That's true.
People run downstairs all the time.
Yeah, it's also it seems to be focused at her house. Like I don't know how to explain that. It just feels more local.
Like if they left, it would be there.
Yeah,
and it's not going to follow them.
Yeah, exactly.
Instead of house attachment. Although with this new thing, once you get into mimicry, dude, it is so.
It's another path.
Like that one we did where the mom like walked backwards once she got discovered, and you could see through her. Ben's story, I think. Ben.
Yes, Ben.
That was not producer Ben, of course. No. That was he has his own stories. It's one thing if it's a foreign. None of this is good. I wouldn't want to live in any of these situations. But if it's a foreign thing where it's like you're doing your thing, I'm doing my thing, we're coexisting.
Yeah,
it's so creepy.
There almost seems to be that there.
But once it starts to try and pretend to be something of yours,
it's getting that kind of attention.
There's an awareness there. Yeah. It's not like when you hear about a ghost doing a loop. Yeah, and it's just like it's doing its loop, its thing, and I'm here, and we're both in the same physical space. It might not even know I'm here.
Right.
If something starts mimicking a voice of someone who's not even living there.
Yeah.
It just shows their intelligence. Where is it pulling that voice from if she's not even there?
Right. Oh, that's scary. I don't like it. I don't like that at all.
So then moving on to Claire's, it's a little bit more tame, but also
I don't know if I agree with that.
It's more tame in the aspect of there's not like a known entity with like the shadow person. The ankle grab and the hand are... But also, it's like she did see a shadow entity in the chair.
She did.
Which may or may not be in my room.
And also the thing in the closet, which I feel like is probably the same entity that was in the chair.
Holding the door shut?
Yeah.
I wonder if there's like multiple things in
Absolutely
this house.
Could be. Absolutely. Also, there's that negative energy just from the family that was there before and the son that, committed suicide on the trains.
Mm-hmm.
That's not that far away from the house, was it?
No, it was. I mean, I think there was, a couple acres maybe on the property, but
even
it was
still,
right there.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
So that right there can be enough of a negative energy where it could create some kind of portal or even his spirit. Yeah.
And there's negativity that was within the family.
Absolutely.
The great grandmother obviously was bringing some negative energy.
Yeah.
Just like seeing the hand and getting grabbed. Those are the two that really
Those stick out. Because also to me, it seems like it's focusing on that same body part to manifest, which means something. I don't know what, but
the ankle grabbing would really bother me because, like, I feel like that would tear mentally. I'd be like, was it my brother? Like, did my brother grab my ankle? And I don't think she believes that to be true. But it's like the one you might second guess, but also just logistically doesn't make sense. And then, but also if you truly believe that it wasn't your brother, you also have to accept the truth that some spiritual entity grabbed your ankle.
Yes, that's true.
Like for you to, it's the idea of, and with anybody's haunting. I mean, we're talking about Claire in this hand, but it's like, it's one thing to rule everything out, but then once you can't, you have to accept this as a truth, and that is scary.
Yeah.
And that's something I don't think I included in here, but it's kind of like, it's almost easier to try and rack your brain to try and find coincidental or like things that don't make sense, like the mold in some cases might, but trying to fit a narrative that doesn't actually work, because even though that doesn't make sense, it's almost easier or more hopeful to believe than the idea like, yeah, I was living with ghosts. Like even if it is the most believable answer, it's, like the ignorance is bliss. Like I'd rather believe it was my brother, who there's no way he could possibly get back underneath his cover in his cot, zipped up, pretending to wake up when my dad yells and turns the light on, rather than think that something was under the bed and snatch that ankle. So we have a believability scale that goes from believable to viable to skeptical to unbelievable. I can't not. No, that's a joke. I would actually feel, being very honest, I would actually feel more comfortable going lower on Claire because I know her than people who I don't know that are willing to be vulnerable and submit their stories to us. Even though I still stand that I've done skeptical before. So
listen, there's no way that I can go anything lower than believable on both these stories. There's multiple witnesses in Hannah's story. Yeah. It's not just her. It's her whole family. It's the animals. It's not the neighbor.
The animals, that's another point.
There's so much going on in that house. There's something.
Maybe the neighbor, if he really thought like, oh, there's no one in here, must be haunted.
Dude, maybe. I don't know. But I know Claire. I believe what she experienced.
I agree. This would be an interesting podcast if one of us did not believe in ghosts.
It would be.
Because there'd be a lot more unbelievables on stories like this. And maybe we don't know what ghosts are. And maybe we'll never know what ghosts are. But you and I both have had experiences.
Yeah. We have our own experiences.
We believe people that have experiences. And I mean, there's a reason we love the paranormal. It's because there's some buy-in to these stories.
We also, go into this thinking no one's lying to us.
Right.
Probably.
No, if we're going to go unbelievable on a listener submission, it's because maybe we found a loophole. Not a loophole. We found an explanation that maybe the narrator hasn't thought of for what something happened.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a paranormal investigator. It's like trying to disprove it. Not saying you're lying.
Can we debunk this?
Debunking. It's like you're not lying. It's just I think there's another explanation. Like, for instance, the dream thing. Maybe one of them talked about it subconsciously. But who am I to say that they didn't? They're twins. And there's a connection between twins that I don't understand.
There are several things in Claire's story that don't make sense, and I can't think of an explanation for.
Many of them.
Yeah, the door. I don't understand that at all. Maybe it's
seeing a shadow in a rocking chair. Two people in the same room. The hand grabbing. Just a mark. Just looking at that mark, knowing something physical manifested.
Pass.
Very spooky. Believable on both. Terrifying hauntings. So that is our episode, The Haunted Century Homes, the only two haunted century homes in the world.
Yeah, that's right.
Thank you, everybody, so much for listening. Thank you, Hannah. Thank you, Claire, for submitting your stories. These are both March, I think, of last year.
Oh, okay.
So
cool. Making it through.
We're working our way through these stories. So if you've submitted recently and you're like, when are they going to do my episode? Eventually.
Calm down.
We will get there. But thank you. If you liked this episode and you're listening on Spotify, you can comment directly on this episode or any of our episodes directly. If you're listening on Apple, you can comment as a whole. 5 stars. Oh, man, that's great. We see them. We appreciate them. It means a lot to us.
And if you are really a big fan of the show, well, first off, we appreciate you. And if you want to wear something of the show, we've got merchandise. We've got a bunch of really cool shirts designed by really cool people. Shout out Jalen.
Shout out Jalen for sure.
Yeah.
Eddie too. Also, I want to say I'm wearing a Roswell hoodie from, I think it's called Hangar 219 or something.
Yeah,
from
I saw
Roswell.
that shirt today. I was like, is that one of ours?
I wish it was one of ours. It's dope. But shout out Roswell. I think it's Hangar 219.
Yeah.
So if you like alien stuff, I'm gonna pimp them. This
Hangar
is
219.
not a sponsor, not just something I own. I like. It was one of my favorite places we went to. I can't remember what kind it was. Claire got a jerky there that she really liked.
Oh, I remember you told me that. Was it?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. She got it and she really liked it.
Okay.
And they were cool people. They were really down to earth and fun to talk. I mean, they're probably used to tourists and
Probably.
stuff.
Roswell.
It's a really good time. I really liked Roswell.
And if you like this episode and you want your own story on the podcast eventually, please feel free to go to our website and fill out the listener submission link, and we'll get it.
Yep. Go to submit your experience, the form there, as much content as possible. The longer the story, the more likely you'll be the headliner.
It's true.
In an episode. Without lying, y'all. No lying. If you're going to lie, make it real juicy.
Yeah, I mean, really good then.
But we appreciate you. We appreciate everyone listening. We appreciate the Bizarros over on Patreon. But thank you, everybody. Hope you enjoyed this episode. As always, I'm Tyler.
And I'm Charlie.
And catch us next week on Believing the Bizarre.
A podcast as bizarre as you are.